guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with another Bible study. For those of you who may have missed, I started a Bible study series on my channel, and I'll link down the first video that I did in regards to that in the description down below. I'd recommend that you check that one out before you continue watching this one, just because it kind of gives a quick rundown of how I go about studying the Word. So I definitely recommend that you check that one out. But needless to say, that's what we're going to be doing today. But before we get into studying the Word, I did a back to school giveaway for those of you who may have missed the news. Everything that was in that haul I compiled and made it into a giveaway, and so the lucky winner for this giveaway is Rachel. Congratulations, and thank you to everyone who entered and sent all of those sweet messages. I just want to say thanks for all of your support, and I want to wish all of you who are going back to school the best school year ever. Have fun, be yourself, and learn a lot. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and get on to the video. For today's video, we're going to be going off of a passage in Luke 15, 11 through 24. It's basically the parable of a lost son or the prodigal son, whatever version you're reading. It kind of just depends. I feel like a lot of people have heard this story, and if you haven't, it's okay. I'll go into depth and read it with you so you know what I'm talking about. Basically, this story is about a dad who has two sons, and one of the sons goes up to the father and demands to get his inheritance early. And the dad's like, okay, I'll give it to you. So he gives the son the inheritance, and then the son leaves, and he's happy for a while, but then he realizes that he wasted all of his inheritance, and now he's poor, he has no food. But then fast forward a little bit, he humbles himself and then goes before his dad and says hey, I need you. And instead of the father being all you screwed up, I'm not gonna take you back, he throws him a party, gets him a bouquet, and welcomes him with open arms. So that's basically the gist of the story, but again, I'm gonna read it a little bit further in this video. But I feel oftentimes this story is used to kind of explain how God is so willing to redeem and embrace us regardless of what we've done. And I feel that's very true when it comes to this passage. But another thing that I think that this passage really teaches is a lesson about contentment. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. The reason I wanted to do this Bible study on contentment today was because I feel so oftentimes we're never content with where God has us. I'm guilty of that, and I'm sure a lot of you are. But to kind of give you guys a little backstory of my own personal experience with this is still definitely something that I'm learning, to be content with where I'm at. One of the places where I saw that highlighted a lot was throughout my high school experience, because about halfway through my junior year, I felt called to go do missions full time. But obviously I couldn't just drop my education and go travel overseas to Africa or something to do missions. So it was really hard for me to stay focused and really enjoy my time in school without having my head go somewhere else and think about other things. So that was definitely a time where I had to learn to be content with where God had me. I had to be patient and trust His timing. And just because I've moved past that does not mean that I've learned this skill to the fullest, because I definitely have not. There are many times where I'm still not content with where I'm at. But needless to say, I just wanted to talk about that for today's video, because I feel a lot of you will be able to relate, and I kind of just wanted to encourage you guys to see how we can just be content with where God has us and how to be patient and trust His timing. So we're going to start off by defining what contentment means. Contentment is basically to be sufficient or adequate. It's to be satisfied with where you are and where God has you. So in order to unpack this passage and kind of explain to you guys why I feel it teaches a lesson on contentment, I'm going to start off by simply reading the passage to you guys, and then we'll go from there. So it says, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my shares of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in the wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of the country. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one would give him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." So just from reading this passage, you can see a lot of resemblance or symbolism to how Jesus is with us when it comes to redemption, and how he's I don't care what you've done or where you've been, I just want to accept you with open arms. So that in itself is a lesson that we can learn from this passage. But now I'm going to break it down and kind of go into detail about how I feel it teaches us about contentment. Within the first 2 or 3 sentences of this passage, we can already see that the son is very discontent. Why? Because he's the son of a king, he's living a wealthy and a good life, and yet he demands his father to give him the inheritance right away, and then he leaves to a different country. So having demanded something that he clearly didn't need at the moment, and then leaving the place, just shows that he's not content with where he was or even who he is. Contentment is a learned behavior, guys. I am still learning it. I'm sure all of you are still learning it. It's definitely a process, but if we allow ourselves to continuously be discontent with everything around us, then we're going to reject God's timing. I came across this phrase, which I'm going to go ahead and just share right now, because I feel like it just fits well with what we're talking about. And it goes, "An internal satisfaction which does not demand changes in external circumstances." So what does this mean? It means that we want to get to a point in our life where we're content with ourselves and with who God is, that regardless of what our external circumstances are, we'll still be content. So we're going to go ahead and keep reading. And so like I said, you can clearly see right off the bat in this passage that the son's just not content. And then he goes on and it says that not long after that, he took everything he had and he set off to a distant country where he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country and he began to be in need. So what does this mean? What this is showing us and what it's teaching us is that he rejected God's timing and the inheritance was always his. So how we can apply this to our life is the things that God has spoken over you and promised you, they will always be yours. It's just a means of trusting his timing and being patient and being content with where you are, so that when the time is right, that inheritance or that promise that he spoke over you comes to fruition. The reason I really want to emphasize the topic of contentment in today's video is because if we're discontent, it's going to cloud our priorities. So we're never going to be happy with where we are, and we're going to be so focused on wanting to move forward and being in a different place or doing something else with our life that we're going to miss what God wants us to do now. And that's very crucial, because then you're just wasting away your life. This next part goes on and talks about how he hired himself out to a citizen of the country who sent him to feed fields of pigs. And I just find this so interesting, how someone who comes from a royal family, who's wealthy, who had an inheritance, then ends up offering his services to a regular citizen, and his job's now to feed pigs. If he would have waited for when the inheritance was meant to be his, and if he would have been obedient to what God was asking of him, then I feel like he would have never ended up in a situation like this. To kind of tie this story back into my own personal experience, like I said in the beginning of this video, I didn't enjoy going to high school junior year or senior year all that much, because I was so focused on seeing myself overseas or in different states doing missionary work. And because I was so discontent with where I was, I feel like I was so clouded by the fact that having been in high school, being surrounded by people my age would have been such a great ministry opportunity. I did reach out to people in my school, but not to the extent that I know I could have if I would have just focused myself and put more energy into reaching the people in my high school and not just thinking about what I could be doing if I wasn't in school. So as you guys can see, like I said, this story kind of teaches two things. It teaches that like regardless of what you've done and where you've been, like God still wants to redeem you and still embraces you and still accepts you and celebrates you when you come before him, like even if you've done what you've done. But it also teaches a lesson about contentment and how if we don't trust God's timing and we don't learn to be content with who we are and where we are, regardless of what our external circumstances are, then we're gonna totally miss out on everything that God has for us. So I just want you guys to know that like everything that he's promised you, everything that he's spoken over you, like there will be a time when you'll see that happen, but don't be so focused on that stuff that you miss out on what he's doing now. Contentment frees you to enjoy what you have now. So learn to be content. It's definitely a process, like I said. But I just wanted to like share that with you guys and kind of break that down and kind of show you how this like small little passage even just speaks so much about that topic. That's basically all I have in regards to this little passage and this Bible study. But I just really feel like God's constantly asking us like the question, when are we going to enjoy the process of walking with him? I feel like we get too focused on where we want to be and where we see ourselves, and we're like, God, like I need to be there, I need to get there, I hate everything, I don't like where I'm at. And I want you guys to know that it's okay to express these emotions with him. It's okay to tell him that you're not happy with where you are. It's okay to tell him that you want to see these things change. But don't be so focused on those things that you miss out on everything that he's doing now. Like at the end of the day, like yes, those promises and those things that he's spoken over you are important and they're gonna come to flourishing, is that the word? Like you're gonna see them happen. But at the end of the day, the thing he's most concerned about is your relationship with him, your process with him. So if you guys have any more questions or if I didn't do a great job of like breaking this down, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to do more videos on this topic, but regardless, I'm still going to be doing a lot more Bible study videos. But again, if you have any questions, let me know down below. I want to wish you all the best. If you're starting a new school year or wherever you are in your life, just learn to be content, learn to just give yourself a different perspective and kind of just look at all the amazing things that are currently taking place and just be patient as you see other dreams and other passions and other things eventually come to pass. So I hope that you guys have a great weekend, but nonetheless, thanks so much for watching and I will see you guys on Tuesday.